So it's my great pleasure to introduce Joseph Rubin to you today. I also wanted to point out a couple of things. I want to thank Paul Hogue for writing all those blog posts that we've been posting this past month. And also, before you leave, make sure you check out our display case out here. We've got a lot of historic band memorabilia in the case out there. So this has been a project, how long have we been working on this? About a year and a half? At least a year and a half in the making. So Saturday night, come hell or high water, we're putting on this concert at Silver Park. The plan is to have it in the Silver Park sound stage. If it rains, we're going to move into the Miller Pavilion, so it will be at Silver Park regardless. So I would like to introduce to you today Joseph Rubin, who's one of the leading authorities in early American musical theater, and he founded a nonprofit organization called American Musical Productions. So the bands and the productions that he works with is part of American Musical Productions, and that's been around since 2003. So he's restored, produced, and conducted such forgotten works for the musical stage as Madame Sherry, The Prince of Pilsen, The Sultan of Sulu, and a 1902 version of The Wizard of Oz. So he's originally from Canton, Ohio, but he works in Manhattan now. And the American Musical Productions is dedicated to preserving and performing historic American musical theater and popular song. So many of his productions this summer, I'm going to be involved in 6 different concerts for 5 different programs around northern Ohio. And so it's concert band music, and he also does a number of big band type things. So without further ado, Joseph Rubin.
Thank you, Karen, and thanks all of you for getting up so early to come here. Only for Alliance would I wake up to get up here at 11. So, we're here to talk to you today a little bit about the journey that brought us to this concert here in Alliance that hopefully will come off on July 4th if the weather cooperates, because it doesn't look so good right now, but hopefully things will come together. So, as Karen said, I founded American Musical Productions in 2003. It was a non-profit organization. We're the only organization in the country dedicated to recreating living history productions and concerts of historic American music from 1890 to 1949, and also historic American musical theater from 1890 to 1930. So the organization was originally called Canton Comic Opera Company because we were specifically interested in doing comic opera and light opera from the turn of the century and so on and so forth. And it was an all-volunteer community organization when we started it. And the first show we did was The Fortune Teller by Victor Herbert, an operetta from 1898 that hadn't been done in Canton in something like 80, 90 years. By 2012, the company was 100% professional, paying all the musicians and cast members. The only volunteer that's left is myself. In 2015, we were searching for concert ideas because we'd done over a dozen historic operettas and musical comedies. We were looking for something interesting to do that was slightly outside that realm, and we came across this program. This program being the inaugural program for President McKinley's 1896 inauguration in Washington. And as you can see, the band at that inauguration was Victor Herbert and the 22nd Regiment Band of New York. Most people don't remember, if you remember Victor Herbert at all, you remember his operetta music, but most people don't remember that he was also a bandmaster in the late 1890s in competition with Sousa. Patrick Gilmore, who was the father of the American band, led the 22nd Regiment Band, and when he passed away, they needed somebody to take over, and they tapped Victor Herbert, who also at the same time was conducting the Pittsburgh Orchestra. So we found this program. We said this would be a great thing to do. So what we did is we found all the pieces that they played on the program. We had a 40-piece concert band in uniform at Upstart Hall in Canton and recreated these inaugural concerts. So we actually have some clips from this concert Victor Herbert not only conducted these inaugural concerts, but he composed 2 marches dedicated to President McKinley. All of this stuff involves a lot of research. So I go to the Library of Congress, all different places. The Library of Congress has Victor Herbert's personal collection and his scrapbooks, and we were able to go through them and find that program that I just showed you. And we were also able to find the music that he played at the inaugural. So I'm going to first start out with the McKinley Inaugural March by Victor Herbert, as performed in 2015. So that was one of 2 marches that he composed for that inauguration. Then the second one we're going to play for you is the President's March. If we could get it to go, there we go. This one. So those are two great marches that don't get heard enough, and it's very interesting to note for those musicians we have in the room that this is a very European style of marches. In Sousa marches, you play from the top to the end, but these European marches, the way that Victor Herbert wrote it repeats back from the end of the march back to the beginning. You repeat the first two strings. But absolutely excellent pieces, and it was really a fantastic concert. I wish you all could have been there in 2015. So at this concert, one of our bassoon players, who unfortunately recently passed away, Pat Croft, who was a historian and played in the Canton Concert Band, and she told me, you know, there was a local band, the Canton Grand Army Band, Emil Rinkendorf, and I should do research on them, and she sent me this photograph of the band. Let's see if I can, there we go. This photograph. And this is at the Canton Auditorium that is now torn down. And this, Emil Rinkendorf's in the center there. This is around 1900 or so, this photograph. So I put this, I saved this email, saved these pictures. I didn't have time to deal with anything at that point. But then came 2020 when we were all stuck at home during the pandemic with absolutely nothing to do. So luckily, at that point, the Canton repository was completely digitized and scanned and keyword searchable online. So you could do whatever kind of research that I was not able to do previously when I was in high school, and you had to crank with these machines at the Stark County Library. And I spent a lot of weekends going through all of the repository, finding out what played at the Canton Grand Opera House. But this was amazing because I could actually search by keyword. And what I was doing is I found 200 programs performed by the Canton Grand Army Band between 1892 and 1910 when Rinkendorf left Canton to go to Illinois. So what I did is I found these were 200 actual lists of music that they played in concerts in Canton. A ton of music. I took each song that they played, put them in a spreadsheet, and divided by year to show how many times they played each number. So I could see which ones were the most popular tunes that they played. There was a lot of music I'd never heard of. I was able to look up recordings and so on and so forth on the internet, cylinder recordings and 78s of stuff that I'd never heard. But a lot of it was never recorded. But it was really fascinating because nobody's really done this for any band. Of course, there's a great book on John Philip Sousa by Paul Byerly, which he did the exact same thing, taking the programs and showing all of the repertoire of the band for the whole entire existence of the band. But nobody had done that for any band that was not John Philip Sousa. So it was quite interesting. So that was 2020, and then comes up American 250 in 2026. So I was trying to figure out what are we going to do for American 250, because of course historical organization, historic American music, we have to do something. And what is more American than a band concert? So at this point, and this is one of the clippings I found of Rinkendorf, a nice drawing of him with his Grand Army Band. You can see it on his cap. And this was the uniform from the late 1890s when McKinley was president. So at this point in time, we changed the name of our organization from Canton Comic Opera Company to American Musical Productions to show the great breadth of what we were doing in terms of other popular music besides light opera. So as I said, what is more American than the band concert? So I started researching what I found in Canton. I said probably can be replicated in other towns besides Canton. So I started researching the other newspapers that were available online, reaching out to historical societies, so on and so forth. And the first place that I did reach out to was here in Alliance because I knew that the connection to Rinkendorf. So what we're doing, and what you saw in that video, is period uniforms, period percussion instruments, and other brass instruments when we have it, and recreating note for note in the program, because most of this music these bands were playing was stuff you could purchase from your local music shop. So this was published music, as opposed to these operettas which had maybe one, if lucky, two copies in manuscript, and if they exist, you're lucky. So this stuff is slightly more publicly available in terms of music, so you can find it in historic libraries. There's a library out in Minnesota, and some other historic bands have this stuff, and some of it's available online. So it's a lot easier to recreate these programs than what we were doing with these light operas. Let's see. in this Ohio 250, that's the thing. As I said, historic brass instruments. This is a mellophone, which you don't see anymore these days, but this is what brass players would play to play the alto horn parts, which were also French horn parts. But most of these smaller towns, like Alliance, did not have anybody who could play a French horn. So they were playing mellophones, which is a lot easier to play. And I am proud to say that our band has the only living mellophone section in the world left, because nobody uses these instruments, and they're all historic instruments that we found to use for our concerts. So before I approached Karen back when it doesn't even say, but it was about 1.5 years ago to get this started in Alliance, because we knew we wanted to do this, and we knew we wanted to do it for July 4th here. But in order to get to that point in time, we have to go through the story of everything else we've done since then. So the first concert we did in this, and the goal was to, as I said, recreate these small bands in these different cities and towns in Ohio, which nobody has done and nobody else in the country is doing for anywhere else in the country. So the first one we did was Fred Niedermeyer, and he's in the center there. This is his band in Columbus, and he was the leading bandmaster in Columbus. He did concerts at Public Auditorium and the parks and everything for years and years. He died in about 1920, and we collaborated with the Columbus Historical Society for the 50th anniversary of Ohio Village to do a concert recreating 2 of his programs. Were 2 45-minute programs, and it was the same process I did with Rinkendorf, in which I went and found 150 programs published in the Columbus Dispatch and put together our programs from that. So that was in July 2004. That was 2024 rather. That was our first concert in leading up to this American 250. Then, in May 2024, we went down to New Comerstown, Ohio. And in New Comerstown, Ohio, they had the Hyperion Band. And you can see in the back, the short guy that's in the middle with the trombone, that was Manuel Yingling. And he was a trombone soloist, bandmaster, music shop proprietor, and he was trombone soloist with John Philip Sousa's band for the 1920 season. And they actually still have his uniform, Sousa uniform, at the museum down in New Comerstown. You should go see it, it's very interesting. And his trombone. So we found programs. It was a little more difficult because most of those New Comerstown papers were not digitized, so we had to find stuff on microfilm. But we went down there, and Karen was part of the band. We played a whole program of his music, including this march that I'm going to play for you, which is called Kentucky Thoroughbred, which was published by Yingling and had not been performed in over 100 years since he passed away. It's a really, really great little march, so let's have a little bit more music. See our 1929 leading bassman there, and our period gone. can see, that was a much smaller ensemble than Victor Herbert had with his band. And that was, if you look back at the postcard, we'll go back to, this exact same instrumentation. You can see this guy in the end, he has a tenor saxophone. Why is there a tenor saxophone in this band that size? Probably because they had somebody in Newcomerstown that played the tenor saxophone and put it in the band. There's no reason that there should be one in that instrumentation, but there was. So, and you can see the mellophones, the three mellophones they're holding there in the back, and just one tuba. And this was very common of these smaller town bands at the time. So it was really special to do that. And that we did that program for the 100th anniversary of what used to be the high school, and it was now the middle school in Newcomerstown. That's the stage we were on. So after that concert, we went all the way out to almost the Indiana border to Hicksville, Ohio. Hicksville, Ohio still has an opera house, the second oldest opera house in the state of Ohio from 1889, the Huber Opera House. And what's really fascinating is that they had a boys band there that was formed by O.V. Hart. And they were so famous, they toured all over the country with this band. And it lasted from the 1900s up until World War I, when all the boys were drafted to go off to war. So instead of stopping, he formed an all-girls band. And that lasted through the 1920s. And that was very uncommon for the time to have an all-girls band. He's standing in the middle with all these girls in these really cute uniforms. And this is somewhere out west. They took this band on tour. And all these girls are from Hicksville, Ohio. And he taught them all how to play these instruments, and it was a really fantastic band. And you can tell from the programs, luckily they had a lot of programs at the Historical Society, physical copies that we were able to look at. And they were playing really, really difficult music for being kids, because these are young kids, particularly the boys. And we had the band director of the current Hicksville High School band director in the band playing tuba, on a tuba that they had at the high school that was from the 1920s, that supposedly was from this Hart's Boys Band and given to the high school. And he said if we gave his current high school students the music that these boys were playing 100 years ago, they would have a heart attack. So this is a picture of this Huber Opera House in Hicksville. You can see the box seats, and this is from the balcony. It's really gorgeous, and the acoustics, and they were absolutely fantastic. So they were having it was Hicksville's, let's see, what was their anniversary? Sesquicentennial. So this concert was free and part of the celebration. This is a picture of the band on stage. This backdrop was original to the Opera House. As you can see, our chimes there in the back. These are Deacon chimes, and they're not set up like modern chimes, which are easier to play, set up like a keyboard. These are all in one row. So good luck finding what note you have to hit. They didn't like it, but they figured it out. So we had a really great band, and we formed that band in Indiana and Western Ohio. So it was really wonderful concert, and everybody had a great time. So we had one more concert in 2025, which was last year. And that was Circleville Cadet Band in Circleville, Ohio, which is about 30 minutes south of Columbus. And if you know anything about jazz history or Ohio music history, you've heard the name of Ted Lewis, who was famous band leader, clarinetist, entertainer for years and years. You might remember him from the Ed Sullivan Show, who was on there a lot. And he's sitting there about age 10 with the E-flat clarinet, second from the right. And this is how he got into musical start, because his fingers were too small to fill the holes of the regular B-flat clarinet. So we actually did a program like this with the Ted Lewis Museum, which was in Circleville, a couple of years for their 40th anniversary back in 2017. But I just recently found in the Chillicothe newspaper an actual program that Ted played in 1901 with this band, which we didn't have previously. So we were able to recreate this. So the history about Ted Lewis is that, of course, he was a jazz musician. He was very young at this time. He didn't want to play the notes written on the page. even at this young age. So they were playing the Poet and Peasant Overture by Franz von Suppé, and there's an E-flat clarinet solo in it, and I will point out we're going to play this for the whole tune for you. Not from this concert, but from our Newcomers concert, we played it. So the band, he decided to not play what was on the page and stand up and play whatever he wanted to. Now the bandmaster was not happy about that at all, and he fired Ted from the band immediately. So years go by, Ted becomes probably the highest paid entertainer of his day in the 1920s. But of course, Ted's original name was Theodore Friedman. He changed his name to Ted Lewis because Friedman didn't fit on the marquee. So the bandmaster, who he became a socialist politician, but he didn't know Ted Lewis and Theodore Friedman were the same person. And he finally figured that out and went backstage to Ted at one of his performances and apologized for firing him from the band 30 years before. So everything comes around. But we're going to play you Poet and Peasant Overture because we have to do a real overture from these periods because I think we played that maybe 4 times at all of these concerts in 2025, and it's a great piece. So enjoy Poet and Peasant Overture by Franz von Suppé. That's such a great overture. So after that concert we did in Circleville, we went to Millersburg, Ohio. And the problem with Millersburg, again, was there was no digitized newspapers. And what was digitized, there were no programs for any of the bands. We finally found one, and this was the Wither Green Band, which people still remember because they were in service until the 1950s. And they actually still have a uniform and a drum from the band at the Historical Society there. So we finally found one program from 1939 that we were able to recreate, and this is from Millersburg's bicentennial. And it was a lot of fun. And I'm going to play you, I just love this medley here. This is a medley of Stephen Foster favorites. We've done this year, we were in Arcanum, Ohio, which is down by Dayton, with Fulton's concert band, Arcanum Band. We were the first concert on the stage of the Arcanum Opera House, which was built in 1880. Set in 100 years, there hasn't been anything. As you can see, they're in the midst of starting process of restoration. But nobody fell through the stage, thankfully. This is the Encore Band, Middletown, Ohio, probably the most famous concert band in the state of Ohio. They were from Encore Steel Company in Middletown and also went on the radio for 10 years in the 1930s. Frank Simon, famous cornetist with John Philip Sousa, and Middletown native, was the conductor. We just did a concert of that a few weeks ago. And then this is Nettermeyer. We're doing another concert in Columbus right before the one here in Alliance at 2:30 at the Ohio Theater of all Ohio composers. So that's Nettermeyer's band. This is the band in Lakeside, Ohio. We're doing that on July 5th, right after the concert here in Alliance. And this was a Lakeside March that we found at the Library of Congress, written by the bandmaster, Grant Connell there. This is Hillsborough. We're going to be there in the end of July, and then we're back to Emil Rinkendorf. So a little bit thumbnail bio. There's more about him we posted online. I'm not going to bore you with it, but he was born in 1862 in Germany. His father was a violinist in an orchestra there, and in 1875 the family moved to America. Emil began his studies on the violin in Buffalo and Milwaukee, and was brought to Canton in 1884 to be director of Canton's Grand Army Band. And this is him at that time. This is in 1897. He's there in the middle with the other members of the band. When William McKinley was defeated in 1890 in his race for Congress, Mark Hanna, who was McKinley's political mentor, learned that the Grand Army Band had been playing at the opposition meetings, and these had attracted much larger crowds. So Mark Hanna went up to Emil Rinkendorf and said, from now on, you're going to be McKinley's band, and whenever he appears, you're going to be engaged to play for him. And that got him won in Congress, and the band went to the National Convention, Republican Convention in St. Louis in 1896, when McKinley was nominated for president the first time, in 1900 in Philadelphia the second time. They played at both inaugurations, met the president on homecomings and his front porch campaign, and they actually played a concert on the lawn of McKinley's house, which no longer there, was torn down for the library in Canton, but we're going to be recreating this on July 9th. So if you don't get enough Rinkendorf on July 4th here in Alliance, come down, free concert on July 9th in Canton, showing you a 1901 program. This was right before he went to the Pan American Exposition and got assassinated. President McKinley offered Rinkendorf the leadership of the U.S. Marine Band in Washington in 1898, but Rinkendorf turned it down. He wanted to stay in Canton with the Grand Army Band. Now, in Alliance, he came to Alliance, so Rinkendorf moved to Quincy, Illinois in 1910 to conduct the 5th Infantry Band. He returned to Canton in around 1917, and at that point he took over. The Grand Army Band was no longer in existence because it was based in veterans from the Civil War. They were all dead at that point. So he took over the Alliance City Band in 1917, a post which he retained until his passing in 1940. In the wake of World War I, Rinkendorf, which was spelled Reinkendorff, Americanized his last name to Rinkendorff, which I think is how it's spelled here. So that was around 1917. So it was very difficult to search in the newspapers because there was about 3 different spellings of his last name throughout these years. But this is a copy of what we found in the Alliance newspaper of a band concert. This is the program that you're going to hear on July 4th here. It was at North City Park, which is no longer in existence, but it's a really fantastic program of varied stuff you can see, from the Merry Widow to popular medley to Carmen and Sousa, and it's really fantastic. We got a really wonderful band for you. Let's see. What do we have next? This is very special. This is his Cantonian march that Rinkendorf wrote, and as you can see, the stamp of the Alliance City Band in Alliance, Ohio. This was saved by Pat Croft, who I mentioned earlier. All this music was apparently in the firehouse here on the second floor where they rehearsed, And some of it survived and went to the Musicians Union in Canton. But the union didn't want it, was going to throw it away, so she took it. And that's the only reason why there is a copy left of this march that we're going to be playing in Canton. We're going to play some other of his marches. This is one of his other pieces we found in the Chatfield Brass Band Library. This was stamped on the back of them, a frivolous, frolicsome caprice, sure of an encore. He was very sure of himself, I guess. And then this was, our chiefs called this a piano copy. This was dedicated to President McKinley and inspired by one of the speeches that he made. And this is the piano copy, very nice illustrated copy. And this is Across the Rockies, which was Rickendorf's most famous march. And we couldn't find a copy of this anywhere. But in the repository, Canton repository, it said that the Marine Band in Washington broadcast this piece on the radio and to listen to it. This was sometime in the 1930s. So I contacted the Marine Band in Washington, and lo and behold, they still had this in their music library and sent me a scan. So now we can hear this march. It's really fascinating because the middle trio section is supposed to recreate the train sounds of what it was. This was inspired by the band's trip to a Western concert in California. This is fantastic. If you have not read this, you need to read this because all of this research about Alliance was already done for me. I had to do very little. Paul Hope, who is he here today? Thank you, Paul, for all of this work. It was absolutely fantastic. And you have to go read it. It's available online. And it tells you everything you ever wanted to know about the Alliance City Band. So thank you, Paul. This really made this concert possible. So now I want to bring up a past member of the Alliance City Band, who is going to be playing with us with 3 generations of his family in this concert, and actually 4 generations played in the City Band. This is Mr. Alan Howenstein, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his experiences with the band.
Okay, I'm going to edit my notes, see where I'm going with this. My grandfather was a member of the band in Maysville, Ohio, and let's stick with the script. Okay. My dad grew up in Fredericksburg. How many people know where Fredericksburg is? Okay, there's 7 roads that go into Fredericksburg, if you know. It's a small town in Wayne County, and these small towns all have their own band. Well, Maysville and Willie Green Band and Mount Hope, these were all bands that my grandfather played in. I've never seen the picture of Willie Green. I wanted to see it. We have the uniform that he wore. He was born in 1881, and so by the time my dad was born, about 30 years later, in 1919, almost 40, I was like, okay, there's a gap in there. But they were short on cornet players. By the time my dad was 10, they said, you know, if you can learn that, they bought 2 cornets, like this one over here, the little silver one. I'm going to play it in the concert on Sunday. And they bought 2 cornets and said, if we can get kids to play these things, you can keep it. Okay, so my dad learned to play the cornet, and I'm sure he got some coaching from his father, and learned to play the cornet, so he got to keep it. Some of the old music that he played, Willow Echoes and Carnival of Venice, I guess I kind of followed in some of those footsteps because I started on that horn, and I wanted to learn to play some of that same music. How did he do that? Okay, but I kept working at it. Dad later graduated from college and learned to play almost all of the instruments. Sometimes we would go to band practice, and I remember seeing him why is he playing clarinet? I didn't know why, but he was expanding his abilities into other realms. I sat next to Bob Snodgrass in the band. I was just give me, just keep your place. He would, he could play with one hand and move his finger to the next, and the notes were flying by, and I'm about 10 years old, 11, but I kept up with it, and he said, now don't forget that they don't give you another key signature, so you gotta make sure you see it right at the beginning. And if it changes, you gotta keep track of what the change was. So if it added another flat or added the sharp and took the flats out. I remember memories of my dad and I coming to band, and then after band was over, we'd go see the horseshoe play. People throw horseshoes. I'm not sure where that street is. I don't think it's there anymore. Does anybody remember the horseshoe thing?
Cambridge.
Is that South Lincoln School?
Near South Lincoln School.
Yes, South Lincoln School, yeah, okay. And I thought, okay, that was kind of cool. Then occasionally we'd go to the Dairy Queen after band practice. My brother was also a member of the band, and he and I are both pictured in the 1961 picture on the doorsteps or on the front porch of the
Castle.
yeah, no, yes, the Morgan Castle, yeah, that's the one that's over here, okay. And that was 1961, and it was good for both of us. He went on into music and studied music at CCM, Cincinnati Conservatory. And I have a sister that's also, we kind of got her into playing this concert. Her name is Michael Marie, and she plays clarinet. She's having a good time back in the second section or whatever, and she's enjoying herself. She's going, I forgot that I needed to practice more. Anyhow, I'm doing pretty good here. I've got, okay, music has been a big part of our lives. My family, I have 5 sisters and a brother, so there were 7 of us all together. We lived on a farm and we all knew how to milk a cow, but there was always a concert to go to. We went to many concerts. It was a focus for participating in a concert or attending the concerts. We went to many over the years, and was a way of expressing our emotions. The Alliance City Band became a part of my education because I didn't know if I could play that many notes. But I went on to an all-Ohio boys band, and it was good for me to get to be in that. And my brother has a son, and his name is Rich. He's, okay, this is another generation thrown in here. And he played with brass bands in the area of the Columbus area, and his daughter he plays trombone, by the way. My brother played trombone, and here his granddaughter, okay, is Lorelei Hallenstein. She's at Capital University studying trombone and composition performance. I'm glad we have been a part of this. So, but it kind of ties together 4 generations by way of the cornet. I'm going to use that cornet in the concert on Saturday, sometime Saturday, wherever it is, 8 o'clock. Okay, I do know that, and I knew I did start practicing. I had to get the thing out and go for it because I've kind of fell away from my practicing after I retired, and it's hard to get it back. I will attest to that. I had one little, I was going to say, I was going to say big thanks to Karen Perron and Jim and Joseph for letting me have a few minutes. You're welcome to come up and take a look at the pictures that are up here. Now, I have one clip that one of the things that I remember very strongly, and I was about 10 or 11, probably 11 or 12 years old when this took place. We did a piece of music called In Storm and Sunshine March, And we've got the cornet part up here. I thought, and I could play high B flats, okay, so I couldn't tongue very well. So I could triple tongue, so I'm gonna triple tongue this 6/8 time. I can figure this out. And anyhow, we started, this is at the end of rehearsal, and Red Croft, they called him Red because he had red hair. I mean, it was red. Here we go. Beep. I played a note right in the window. Okay, that was the beep. Okay. Now I know these guys. They're all laughing at the kids. Okay, that's myself and my brother wasn't in on this rehearsal. This was before I was only in about the 5th grade, and so well, let's do that again. They're all still kind of chuckling a little bit. Okay, and so we did their introduction again. Coming. Beep. Okay, so it happened twice. I didn't learn my lesson the first time. Red, he's just laughing through his teeth, and the rest of the guys are going, they're muttering. Okay, all right, let's try one more time. And okay, this time I'm going to either not play or I'm going to get it. Okay, so now I need a little audience participation here. The words are 1, 2, but faster than that. Count louder than that. With all these guys, I mean, it was 1, 2 in my ears. I did it a third time, and they're breaking up, really. But we kept on going this time. They didn't stop after the 1, 2, and I learned my lesson. Find out where those windows are. And don't get in it. But that's. I think on the way out, we're going to turn the volume down and you can listen to it.
You can listen to the rest of it.
And thanks again.
Well, thank you, Alan. When I heard that story, I told you to come and tell that in front of everybody. It's so special to have not only people from Alliance, but people that were in the original band, like Alan and his brother, and all these generations of the history, and tying it all together here in Alliance. This is something special. As I said, we're doing 10 concerts this summer all over the state of Ohio. This is the only one that we were able to find people that were actually in these bands and put them back on stage. So it's a real pleasure to work with you. I'm looking forward to Saturday, and thank you, Karen. Thank you to the Historical Society and the library and the city and the Parks Department and everybody that helped put together this what's going to be a fantastic concert. We're going to bring Alliance back to 1926, 100 years ago, and celebrate America's 250th birthday. And I want you to bring all your friends so we can do this every year, because I want the Alliance needs a band again, and we need to do this because it's a wonderful history, and we have years and years of programs we need to recreate. So we'll see you there. Yes. Yes, Paul.
I want to make a remark that when
Yes.
I was done some more recent research, that was the year I think that the Alliance City Band first played at Silver Park.
That's
That was
right.
in June, and then the next concert was the 4th of July concert. So it's exactly 100 years.
Right, exactly 100 years. Yeah, it's really very special. And thank you again, Paul, for all your research. Yes.
And that cornet was made, according to Elkhart, Indiana, in 1926. I didn't know that until I got to digging and going, okay, if I can make it happen, I'll do. Anyhow, that's another, I don't know how that happened.
Well, thank you all for coming. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you learned a few things, and we'll see you on Saturday.